Hi, welcome to my very first do-it-yourself movie. I'm gonna make homemade soap, which I'm gonna give away for Christmas presents and others. Of course, I'm gonna keep some of them myself. I could go all the way with all of the ingredients and make soap from the bottom, but this time I've chosen to go with already pre-made soap, ecological type like this. This comes in a plastic bucket and it's not really easy to get out, but I found out heating it up with hot water right here makes it loosen from the box fairly easy within less than 30 seconds. I'm also gonna make scented oils like these ones. Today I'm gonna make a coconut soap, and I'm probably gonna add some colors as well just for the shits and giggles of it. So now that I have sliced all of the soap into squares so it will melt a little bit quickly while waiting for it to melt on the oven over there, I want to show you the forms that I have. These are plain and simple square-shaped silicone forms, which will give me pretty boring soaps, but they are pretty functional and you can gift wrap them really nicely either way. It will still be homemade and they're really easy to come by. These two I got from a do-it-yourself kit from Panduro, where I got the already scented and colored soap material, just melting it down and putting it in this and then gift wrapping afterwards. I have also, just for this occasion, purchased this foam, which will give me 9 small square-shaped soaps with pretty beautiful pattern. Awesome if you want to give it away for a Christmas present, but also nice if you want to have it just lying on a plate in the bathroom as decoration. I also got this one, which will give me 6 soap bars, but these will be longer in shape and not square-shaped, which is what my boyfriend wanted, so I got this specially for him. When the soap has been melted, I'm gonna pour them into these mold and leave them to set. As you can see from the inside of this one, you will only have lines like this, indicating where to cut, so you will have to cut for yourself. That can be a challenge, unless you have a really long and sharp chef's knife or a soap knife. These are easier to deal with because they are already divided. You already get 3 soap bars here, which you do not need to do anything else but pop out like this. So as you guys can see, I'm using a steam pot here, where you have a bottom part where the water is, and a top part here that has holes in the bottom. The reason why I've chosen to use this is because I'm using this metal bowl to melt my soap in, and I do not want to have any water splashing into the soap when I'm melting it. So I found out the easiest way to make sure I do not need to hold this. It will be quite heavy with 1 kilo of soap inside, so I'm using this one. This top part will hold the bowl, and the steam will come up around the edges, meaning the soap will melt inside and there will be no danger of water splashing inside, and I do not need to hold this while it's melting. It might take just a little bit longer than when the bowl is in direct contact with boiling water, but I doubt it will make a very big difference for me when I'm making this soap today. So as you guys can see, it has melted quite nicely. There is only a few small lumps of soap left in here. So I'm going to wait for those to melt perfectly before I put any scent inside. Before I put any scent, of course, I will lift this off the heat, because it's no need for this to be in the heat, and it's as you can see, there is steam coming up here. It's actually quite warm to have your hands in here constantly. So I will lift this off from the plate before I put the scent in, just to save my own hands. And as you can also see, there is a little bit of this layering on the top of the surface, and that's because of the coconut oil that I decided to add to this soap base. It is quite normal for you to get some sort of small layer of impurities of the soap, and if you want to, you can remove this with a spoon before you start pouring it into the molds. So as you can see, as soon as the soap is cooling down on the surface, you get more of this. This will happen when you're making soap, so do not worry about that. At the moment I'm gonna add the scent, and since I added coconut fat, I'm gonna use coconut scented oil as well to make a coconut scented soap. You will need quite a lot of it to soap here, so you just splash as much as you want. The more the better, half the bottle if needed. They are saying at least 40 to 50 drops of coconut oil, which is quite a lot, but that is if you want to have a proper scent. I have used, I don't know if you can see it, but just 1/5 of the bottle, and I'm gonna add quite a lot more. And then of course you want to mix it quite evenly into the soap, but you cannot whip. That will leave a lot of air bubbles into the soap, and when you're using a crystal soap base like this, it will be really visible. Might give a nice and interesting effect, but I want to try to avoid it, so I'm just pushing like this. I'm pushing from the edges to the center, like I would when I'm making a cookie dough. Just to spread the oil into the soap base. At the moment this is not colored. You can add any kind of color you want. It is often not recommended to use food coloring like this because it doesn't mix well with soap. However, this is the only I have at the moment, so I will give it a shot anyway, but it might split up, it might change color, it might not get as nice as I want it to. But my plan today is to have a marbled soap, so I do not need it to mix evenly, I just need there to be traces of color. So now that I have mixed in the scent, it's time for me to add the coloring, and I'm not intending for this to be any kind of even color. So I'm just spreading it out on the surface like this, and then I will just do the pushing again, like this. And that's about it. I'm not intending to spread any more than this because it will mix in quite well the way it already is. And since this is kind of hot, I will need to use gloves because now of course this is slightly higher than 37. So we just needed to move the mold into the heat protection here just to make sure we don't damage the tabletop. Now I'm gonna try to pour really gently because I want to avoid as much air bubbles as I possibly can. It's not gonna be easy when pouring this, but I will just have to do my best. And when this is filled up, I'm moving over to the silicone forms. There. And I have these ones already ready. I'm just gonna start filling up the first one and moving over to the second one. Again, trying to avoid splashing too much so there is as little air bubbles as possible. When all three of these are already done, I'm just adding the rest here because there is a few more millimeters I can add. And that's it. Now we just need to wait. So this is the second batch that I'm making. As you can see, I kind of jumped ahead to the already melted part, and I've already added the scented oil inside here. This time I'm making one scented with a so-called birch scent because I think it smells absolutely divine. I'm about to add some color to this, and this one I will make green as the leaves of the tree itself. I'm not going to add them very much this time because I want this to be more see-through, so I'm just dripping a little bit around here. As you can see, not much at all. And then I will just give a few small mixes, like before, so it gets a bit of marble. And again, we want to pour really gently, both because we don't want the color to mix too much, but also to avoid as much air bubbles as we can. And before I pour everything in here, I will pour into the 3 silicone forms, just like before. And my assistant was nice enough to move it. And as before, I take the rest back in here. So these, since these have been waiting for about 1.5 hours now, is already done, as you can hear, all set. So these I can pop out. The big one I will wait for a half hour more because it's still a bit hot in the middle. So what I'm doing right now, these silicone ones are really easy. I just peel them out like this. And the result, as you can see, a bit marbled, a bit see-through here and there, not evenly colored at all. And as you can also see, a little bit of bubbles in the surface, but that's not a big problem at all. If you really want this to be really even, of course what you can do is to take a hot knife and just smear on the surface to just melt the bubbles away. I'm not going to bother because it shows it's homemade. So then I just peel out the other ones as well. And now we just leave them in room temperature so they get a little bit colder before we pack them into a little bit of plastic foil. The plastic foil will make sure that when you gift wrap them in nice looking paper, they will not make fat stains through. I had to give in and flush it with a little bit of water, as you can see. Now I'm just giving it a gentle little squeeze and a gentle little pressure, and as you can see, it's loosening up, and there you go. As you can see, nice pretty pattern on it, and the lines are quite visible here where you will cut. So as you can see, I'm in the process of gently cutting this up, and now before it has reached room temperature and become really cold, it's like cutting butter. It's really easy to cut. You just need to be gentle and careful. Using a chef's knife like this one, of course make sure that you can cut a long distance without having to do several cuts, which might lead to edges not so pretty. Of course you can spend money getting a so-called soap knife. I didn't really see a need for it because I have this one. So all I do is to try to make sure I'm pressing straight down as best as I can. Also, if you want to speed up the process of cutting, if you have waited a little bit too long, you can of course flush the knife in really hot water to make sure that the knife is really warm, and then it will kind of melt its way a little bit down into the soap. So as you can see, I'm putting plastic around these that have been waiting a little bit longer than the other one I just cut. I'm using just regular Glad Blast. This is of course to make sure that the soap doesn't stain the wrapping paper that you choose. I'm using gift wrapping methods more or less, just to fold it nicely around the soap. Of course you can just bubble in it with the plast as much as you want. You don't need to be really like over thorough like I am right now. And also, of course, this will help to save the soap, because the soap, of course, will dry if left out in the air. Like this. So as you can see, it's not that hard to make homemade soap when you buy already pre-made soap base to do this. Today I used a crystal clear soap. You of course get them in milky white. It is to prefer to use soap coloring instead of food coloring like I did, because soap coloring does not color off on the skin like food coloring might do. You might be slightly interested to use these soaps, but time will show. Either way, thank you for watching and have a nice day.